Write an essay playlist, people. We're back. In fact, I don't actually think Matt has ever been here, but this is Andrew. I'm here with UK producer Matt Jenko. Hello, Matt. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine and Jim Dandy.
You always are.
I know. Well, not all the time, but I'm not sharing that.
Let's keep something personal.
We're back on the essay writing list, and after last month, promotion of Flow, that brilliant track with the new age supergroup Flow, which was, that beautiful long form instrumental, some astonishing musicians, and it's got that acoustic new agey vibe. This month, we're super stoked because we're moving into a little different space. We're moving into, I guess, what we're looking at calling chill step. But before we get into the track, the reason we are here is that we're all about the idea that having music, instrumental music in the background playing, can make your writing and studying easier. And we know that because Matt and I have both studied this. So you went to college, didn't you, Matt? Where did you go? What was your education?
Well, I mean, last time I was at university, I was doing a master's degree. And if I hadn't have had music to study to, I probably wouldn't have even passed it, you know what I mean? But, and I knew that was the way that it had to be done, because when I did my undergraduate degree in psychology, my final year project was literally investigating the effects of music on mood. And I mean, I did it in the context of anxiety and depression, but there's just so much information and so much evidence that if you find the right music, if you get a list perhaps of all the best music that can help you focus, there is a biological, scientific line of the fact that certain music can make you concentrate better. And that helped me get through I wouldn't have been sat here with the qualifications that I've got now if I didn't have music like that to help me study.
So what were your study habits? If you had, you've got an essay, you've got something going on, what was your...
I didn't get that then. What happened to your microphone, man?
Yeah, I know, it's a bit mental, hasn't it? Well, no problem. I'll continue going.
So just interpret it, Solomon.
Hello, Madalena IB. Welcome in, and hello, Erin. How are you? Looks like it's cleared up a little bit. Almost. So, well, here's a quick thing. I'm going to ask the questions not just talking because your mic seems fine. So, what I meant, what are your study habits? Like, when you had to study, would you put headphones on, a laptop, or I mean, what would that look like for you?
I mean, again, we're going back a bit, and it was a time. I sound old. It wasn't even that long ago, but it was a time when Spotify wasn't as prevalent. You know what I mean? So it was more about you'd have to go and work a bit harder to find some tunes, and you could end up spending a bit too long doing that. And it might have been an underlying form of procrastination, like I've got to get this music right, so I can't really do my essay yet. But if it's one of those. It's sort of like when it comes to music, and you're spending a lot of time looking for it. That's a drag, you know what I mean? If you can find places where you can get reliable sources of music that's going to be helpful to you. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that I wish I'd had. So a lot of my study habits, when it came to curating my own music, were wasting time. You know what I mean? But ultimately, when I did find the right tracks, and the problem with me is I find about 3 or 4 songs that I just love. And then I'll hammer them so hard because nothing else is like I can never seem to find enough of the same sort of stuff. So I end up kind of saturating myself and then going off the track ultimately, which is a bit of a problem when you think about, you can kind of hit yourself over the head too hard with it. So I just like finding places where there's a lot of similar vibes, so I don't burn myself out with the same tracks that are having serving a particular purpose for whatever it is that I'm trying to get done on that day.
Right. What I know is that music is so unique and personal to the individual.
Yeah.
So what works for me may not necessarily work for you. And the idea that you could have this perfect, music to write to playlist, I learned quickly on that that's bullshit. That's not going to work, because
No,
it could work for me and there are 3 tracks in, but then, you bounce out. So
yeah.
one of the things that I've been very clear with the essay writing list is it really is, for me, it's more about tracks on repeat.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to what you just said about finding 3 or 4 tracks that you would then, you'd hammer and loop.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think of that?
I think, yeah, because this is why long form music is really so important, and it's upsetting, and because I mean, I've done the trying to get on a playlist game. Well, it's how I found you in the first place. But you'd write a piece of music, and it had to be 5 minutes long, because that you didn't want to cut anything out and compromise the idea. And then you'd have the curator saying, "Sorry, it's too long." You know what I mean? People aren't going to listen to this, and they're right. You know what I mean? In these places, people are their attention spans are so short that within 2 or 3 minutes they're like on board now and move on to the next thing, and it's just like it's a shame that we can't, as a society, find like a love of the long and taking time, having patience with a song and letting it get to where it needs to be to fulfill its purpose as a song. And, with a long form track, you can go to a lot of different places within that piece of music without, repeating yourself. So a track can loop around, and it's multiple places, within. You've not heard the same chorus 15 times in a 30-minute break. You know what I mean?
But there's the thing. There's the idea of music, listening to music for pleasure, because you're in the car, you're hanging out, or you've got it on, and then the utility aspect of music, listening to music because it's serving a particular function, it's enhancing what you do. And that is, to me, very much the focus of the Music to Write an Essay. I mean, the music on here it's not designed to be the way I select it and curate it. It has to be cool. Yeah, it has to live and stand alone on its own. But its primary function is not to be right at the front of your mind. It's to sit and enhance and be at the back of it.
Yeah.
And at that point, the longer it can be, the better it can be. I mean, I'm gambling that there is this growing market for music as utility rather than music is just, pleasure. I mean, what do you think?
It's this idea that I feel like a lot of people have a sort of they have a conception of this, that music can serve different purposes. Because if you'll ask people sort of, all right, well, what tracks do you listen to when you're on a night out? What do you listen to when you're in the car? What do you sing to when you're in the shower? You know what I mean? Like, they will probably give different answers. There are certain songs that are required for certain events, but I think people don't really think about it in that way because, well, I mean, again, the average person doesn't really think about music in the way you or I do because we live and breathe it. But, I think it's sort of trying to, like, let people know that there are different, and this is what Musicto is great for, because each playlist is curated for a particular purpose. Whether it's, getting to know you in a jellyfish, which we all need to do. You know what I mean? There's a jellyfish in all of us, and we're not acknowledging that enough.
So we just had a comment from George that says, but what if a song is just a song? And to me, the answer to that is great. It's just a song. But
again, though, I don't think a song in it is ever just a song, because there will always be someone who it means more to. You know what I mean? And there will be, again, like, it depends what a song is. If you think about the purpose of a song, if a song is designed to be a commercial product that is sold and purchased and consumed by the listener, then it's not a song then, is it? It's serving another purpose as a commodity. Or, I think everything has a purpose. I mean, a song is a nebulous concept, isn't it?
Right. But I think we are... you and I have talked about this in the past. We're living in amazing times. I mean, music to me is a story of technology. Yeah, it has, as technology has developed, music has been more, there's more music basically, all the way up to where we are now, where music's bloody everywhere. And, the challenge is it's not like how it used to be 20, 30 years ago, and you saved up your money and you bought an album and you listened to it and you loved it and you waited for it on the radio. Now it is bloody everywhere. I mean, the challenge is different. It's now deciding what you want to listen to. And we're coming in from this angle of, hey, we're giving you a behavioral or an emotion-based, playlist. So if you're feeling this way or you want to do this kind of thing, then here's a bunch of songs, as George says, here's a bunch of songs that actually might work for this.
That serve a purpose in some regard, yeah. I mean, because I'd say, looking on my list, there will be some songs, like, I don't think, like, I did that right up for Stamina by Geordie Dallas, which was one of the first tracks in the playlist. I don't think he was sat there thinking this is going to get people through their day. He was, what I mean? So the purpose of the song to him when he created it, and we've had this conversation before as well, the minute it's out there, it's no longer yours, and it's for people to make what they make of it. So I think, all we can do as curators is get a bunch of songs that, meet our requirements for whatever our particular playlist is about, and explain our reasoning behind it, and why someone who is into, for me, if someone wants to feel motivated to get things done, then here's a few songs that necessarily wouldn't get along together in another circumstance, but in this particular instance, they play together nicely,
So let's move on to the track that we're here to talk about, because
which would that be? I'm not aware of this track.
So
I've spent the past few months living and breathing in the little thing.
So the track that we are promoting on the essay list for this month, the month of May, is a track that has come out of the brain of Mr. Jenko here. And it's called Clarity. So give us, just tell us how this came about, how we ended up doing this.
We've had a few chats, haven't we? And we originally toyed with the idea of using Home, if you remember, and I said no, because Home was done, and we tried Navigator, but it became apparent that we had to, something had to, for what we wanted to do, we needed to give it some real love, and something had to be purpose created for what we were trying to do. And Clarity was something that I had in a demo form. It was about 2 minutes long, and we just kind of took that and run with it and tailored it to what we wanted from the ideal track for, focused listening. And by focused listening, I don't mean you sit and listen to it. I mean, it's listening to focus. So maybe I could have used a bit of nomenclature there, but you got what I meant.
For people who don't know, Matt's got loads of tracks up, and because Matt curates a list for us, the music to save the world, which you should totally go and check out. The link will be below. But we were chatting because he does these long form instrumental pieces, whether it's like dance music or whatever. And I was thinking, well, your music might actually just be perfect. And we looked at some of his previous tracks. He said Home and Navigator, and I was thinking they could work. But it was you, Matt, and said, well, look, why don't we develop something specifically for the list? And I thought,
yeah. So the reason why this was great is because I'd say you had a creative hand in it. You helped me guide the direction, and it was great because we made sure that it's like in it. It sort of sounds like we've took the creativity out of it by giving it a utility, but in essence, that made the track so much better because of it. Because we considered the end user. We considered who's going to enjoy this track and who's enjoy it in the sense that they're going to find use out of it. So we took all the factors.
I think that's bloody cool. I mean, seriously, if music is if music is different in 2018, 2019 than it was back in the 70s, I mean, sure, it's the same thing, and yes, a song's a song, but it's just like any other product or commodity. If you're not considering the end user, then you're going to lose out to somebody who is.
And this is what I mean. We'll do a little plug of the book, but what I said in that chapter, which if you've not read, you should. I talk about viability and integrity. You know, I mean, that's two things that a song needs to have. It needs to have integrity in the sense that you personally have to enjoy it as the creator. You can't be detached from it. You have to find I think, you know, for a song to have integrity, you've got to love it. You've got to love that song like it's your own, and you would personally listen to it. And pop music gets a bad rap, but look at Max Martin. Like, you can see he loves pop music. So he's a producer with integrity. He's also got a shit ton of number ones, but he's got integrity because he loves what he's doing. But at the same time, the song's got to have viability in the sense that you've got to appreciate how someone else is going to enjoy it. Because if you don't care whether that piece of music that you're producing is going to be enjoyed by somebody, then you might as well never release it. Because the only person you care about it pleasing is yourself, and you've done that. So right, put it in the box and forget about it. So if you're going to share music, if you're going to share any kind of art, you've got to make sure it's going to translate to someone else, and someone else is going to connect with it and resonate with it. Right. So this is what we're doing. But we've considered the viability of the track in the sense that what are the pieces, what are the components that a track like this needs to have? You know what I mean? It needs to be subtle in the sense that you can put it on in the background and it's not going to distract you because we've got some guy screaming, or because we've got a dog throwing up and reversed it and put reverb on it. You know what I mean? Because I do that all the time. And in the sense that it can be played in long form, so it's not just your typical verse, chorus, break, and then what the fuck do we do for the next 5 minutes? You know what I mean? So we considered that in the structure, and we took it to a progressive place where the song just meanders through all these different ideas and places and never really lands on one, you know, set motif, but repeats elements and to make it cohesive and all that stupid stuff. And it can loop as well. You know, so we took all these pieces.
Right. I want to get back into the track, but just there's a business perspective on this, because
yes.
if you there is more music being released now than there ever has been, you know, in the history of the planet. I mean, anybody with a laptop and, you know, downloading Fruity Loops can put stuff out there. So and the distribution channels are.
All right, George has come back to us.
Let's say, George, David Bowie felt he sold out when he made Let's Dance. What happens when music becomes popular but was written for $1? Well, let's come back to that, because I think that's almost like that's the idealist thinking. I mean, we get thousands of track submissions, and everybody thinks they're the best and they want their track out. But the hard, cold reality of the music business right now is that it's owned, dominated by the established, you know, infrastructure, even more so than it was with the whole payola back in the 90s. Okay. So, yeah, in the same way we tell everybody, hey, you can grow up to be president or you can be prime minister or whatever. Yeah, that's technically correct, but
I know exactly what you mean.
The reality is bullshit if you don't have those relationships and you don't have that.
And I know from an artist's perspective, because you think, I always felt like the only barrier to me, like, getting music, you know, releasing this. So from when I started being a producer, I always felt like the only barrier was my ability to make a good song. You know, write it, arrange it, mix it. You know, and if I could get those things right, the rest would take care of itself. You send it to a label, they go, "This is great," and off it goes. In the reality, it is a sense that it's just, you know, there are far more barriers than just being able to get your song out there and mix it. You know what I mean? It's a case of, like, it's sold to you that way. Do you know what I mean? That anyone can be number one these days, because all you need to do is get it on Spotify and do this and do that, and then, you know, and you hear the success stories like, oh, this guy came up through YouTube and this guy used to busk on the streets and now look at him. So it is, like you said, like the present, anyone can be number one, but in reality we know it's not, because you can make an amazing song. You know what I mean? And it can be mixed perfectly, mastered perfectly, and be a pristine, you know, glowing piece of item, and send it to a bunch of playlist curators and blogs and stuff, and they just go, not interested because you can't market yourself.
Right, but this is it's look, the business model has changed. Well, not the business model has changed, but there is so much music out there, and there are so many amazing tracks. There really are. But the distribution model is so narrow. I mean, if you've got Spotify with 50, 60% of the market, and you're basically interfacing with Spotify, you know, and a little black box like this, and they're presenting you their, you know, 2 or 3, you know, popular playlists, and you're listening to Rap Caviar or whatever. You're listening to less music, you know, the less choice and diversity of music than ever before. Mm-hmm. So when music is still being presented to you in genre, which is being, you know, we talk about whether it's rock, or whether it's pop, or whether it's rap, or whether it's country. While it's still being presented to the public in genre, we're going to be listening to less of it. And this whole idea of Musicto, the whole idea of building audiences based around an emotion or a behavior, is that it opens up new audiences for artists. That means that you as an artist can write a killer song, but considering the end user. And instead of like considering the end user as it's a great pop song, but if you write a brilliant track that's going to help somebody do utility, do behavior, that to me is bloody cool, and everybody wins on it.
Because we talk about this, don't we, like pushing the value of the track, and it comes into the way we try and get it out there, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, we're always explaining to someone, you know, this isn't a favor for us that you listen to this. This is going to help you. And I think, you know, going back to why a lot of artists fail is because they don't seem to understand that. And they'll just say, I just hope you like my song. And it puts them in a position of being the, you know, the one who's, the listener's doing them a favor. And that's not someone you can be a fan of, because someone that you're a fan of is someone you admire and respect and appreciate for their craft, not pity, you know. And that's why, you know, and this is why considering the end user is so important, because if you don't know who the end user is, if you don't know what the value of the music that you're producing is, you can't tell them what it is because you don't know yourself. And then you can't get that out to the right people that need to hear it. And having a playlist, having a space where all the music on the music itself might never meet up in the room together, you know. And my list is saying, like, you know, you wouldn't get someone who likes Enter Shikari probably listening to I don't know, Gorgon City or something like that. But the two tracks meet there because they both fulfill the same purpose. You know what I mean? They motivate you, they galvanize you, they make you feel like you blast that through your little ears, that you're going to be walking down the street thinking, I can fucking do anything. And the two songs are so different, but they both give me that vibe, which means that they'll both give lots of other people that vibe. And that's the important thing, really, isn't it? We're considering what music can do to modulate behavior, or what can it do to modulate your mood, your emotion, or the way you feel about the world. And that's the real sort of change that we want to affect, really, isn't it?
I think, and it goes back to George's question, which we will put up again. I mean, it was the 80s, man. You know, I mean, you're doing seriously long rails. You've got padded jackets. I mean, sure, did he sell out? I don't know, but I bet he had an absolute bloody blast, you know, doing it.
I mean,
this was getting on for 40, you know, not 40, getting on 30 plus years ago, when he was David Bowie. He had an audience, and the marketing and the distribution was exactly the same as it had been for years. That was always going to be, well, not always, but because he crashed after that, didn't he? But bottom line, you look at Dark Star when it came out, you know, his Black Star, sorry, the last album. I mean, beautifully critically acclaimed. It was David Bowie. He even died to promote it. That's a bit harsh, but
that's why he did it.
But the number of streams, the commercial success of that was relatively, you know, low compared to everything else. So I think times have changed. I think as artists nowadays, because there are so many artists, that's the thing. I mean, we live in this nice modern, you know, tech environment where, certainly in the Western world, you know, you can afford to go and be an artist, and you don't have to, you know, worry about so much, that there is so much art. If you're not thinking about marketing, if you're not thinking about how can I, make it so that somebody wants to listen, you can be a genius and nobody's going to hear you.
And this happens all the time because, again, I know songs that are on Spotify, and this ties into George's question here, because I've said it before, but when I listen to the radio, I get a bit annoyed because I'm listening to music that is not good, in the sense that I can tell that, as a producer, I can tell that about 15 minutes of thought went into making it. And, it's frustrating in that regard because, there are far more talented artists out there that are not getting listened to, when there's people that are essentially idiots getting all the limelight and all the money. But I think if David Bowie should have been proud, really, with Let's Dance, because it's like you've connected with so many people. People love a song that you created. So what if it's made a load of money? Isn't that the whole point? You know what I mean? And not in the sense that you should be doing it for the money, but if you can get rewarded for the piece of art that you've created, then yeah, you should be paid for it. You know what I mean? It's this sense of selling out. I think it's a really, really bizarre concept. And when it first came apparent to me was with Blink-182. And you remember they did Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, and that was like the album, the Blink-182 album. And then they did the self-titled one after that, and everyone's like, "You've sold out," because the sound matured, basically. And they were like, "Hang on, we're coming into our 30s here. We can't be singing about dicks and stuff now because, we've got to grow up a bit." And everyone hated it, and they said, "You sold out." And it's like, trying to be commercially viable is not selling out. Trying to be commercially viable is maintaining your integrity whilst also appealing to more people. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with trying to appeal to people as an artist, as long as you yourself believe in what you're doing. So
that's the kicker, isn't it? So long as you believe in what you're doing. And if you are lucky enough to be a cynical motherfucker and you can release tracks that are so good that you don't give a shit about and they still go global, great, that's a lovely problem to have. Good on you, and maybe you burn in hell later on. But the reality for 99.99999% of artists, and certainly, we're doing about 1,000 track submissions into Musicto a week currently. And I mean, that just gives you an idea, and we're still small. There's so many people with such great music that's got to get out there. And if you're not, keep on saying that, if you're not thinking about marketing, if you're not thinking about why should somebody listen to it, if you can't make a compelling case, then, you're going to be sitting there.
So this is a nice segue into. So I've been thinking about, obviously, who would I consider as my track of the month? You know what I mean? So, if people are out there watching this and thinking I'd like to be a track of the month and feature in the center of my playlist for an entire month, I'm not just going to include anybody there. You know what I mean? I'm going to want to see that this is the sort of person that can promote themselves as well. Someone who's got, an idea of how people consume music, what, basic marketing and stuff like that, and how are they going to, because the reason why Clarity is doing well for me and you is because it's not just you sat there pushing it while I'm like, come on, get on with it. Where's me streams? Where's me fans? I'm sat, we are constantly back and forth, trying things out. I'm suggesting stuff to you. You're suggesting stuff to me. We're pushing back and forth, and we're both working together. And I'm not leaving it to you, and you're not leaving it to me. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of relationship that I'm looking for. If someone wants to be tracking them on my playlist, then you're going to have to work with me and give me ideas and not just leave it all to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and this is where it comes down to it. You also need to have a great track, I'm afraid. Sorry.
That's the bottom line. It has to be good. I'm going to just
we're saturated with so much music, but we're saturated with submissions that maybe just don't get what we're after. You know what I mean? Because we do get stuff that is a bit kind of like, I don't think you've listened to the playlist first and foremost. You know what I mean? I don't think it fits the vibe. But I also don't think you've really tried to sell it to me in the right way. You know what I mean? In the sense that I want to know exactly how I can tell the people that are fans of my playlist, how is this going to motivate and galvanize them? This is what they want. This is why people come to me for music, not because they love dance music, although it's heavily skewed towards dance music. But, you know, what can they get? How is listening to this track going to pump them up and get them going?
So we've just spent half our time on the session talking about the business of the industry, but it's brilliant because
you need to talk about it. It's unfortunate as creatives we don't like to acknowledge the fact that it's business driven, but it is. So at least we're honest about it.
So the last few minutes, back for the students who are out there going, I thought they were going to talk about why music going to help me write shit.
Yeah, sorry.
We are going to finish on this. Because just describe clarity of the track for us. So if I'm like, I'm going to sit down, I've got an essay to write in the next 5 or 10 minutes, why should I put on clarity and have that in my headphones?
Because clarity came from the place that you're probably in right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I know when I look at my assignment and I sit there and I go, fucking hell, I've got 4,000 words to write here and every one of them's got to be gold dust. How am I going to pick the right words here? How am I going to tell the right story? Because ultimately, it doesn't matter what you're writing, you're telling a story. You know what I mean? Like, if you're writing a project research write-up about your experiment in the lab, you're still telling a story. And the point of the story is what were the results? If you're writing a novel, what did the character learn on his journey? If you're writing a poem, what's the emotion you're trying to express? But every single piece of writing is about getting to the point. It's about wading through the jungle, all this information that's around you, that's enclosing in on you. There's a chaos everywhere. And it's about finding that point of clarity of what am I trying to say and how can I, just ignore all the extraneous bullshit that I don't need to consider. Because I used to do it. And my last sort of assignment on my master's degree is probably the best example of this. It was like, I got so caught up in the jungle. I was trying to write about this bloody enzyme and how it affected leukemia. And I got so worked up with all the, am I using the right words here? Have I understood properly what this is? Have I used the right results? Have I interpreted the results right? Is this the right methodology? Is this, and getting so bogged down in things that were like, are they important? Is it telling the story? Ultimately, I knew what I was trying to say, but I was so caught up in the jungle and you can feel overwhelmed. And if you can find clarity, if you can get to that point where you think, I know exactly what I'm trying to say here, that's the entire essence of any piece of writing. And I've done all kinds of writing, do you know what I mean? I've written, kind of self-helpy motivational stuff with the book. I've written a novel. I've written for science. I've written pieces of journalism. So I know different types of writing, and they all have the same thing in common, which is that you've got to tell a story. Someone has to be able to read it and go, what was the fucking point in that? You know what I mean? Like, why have I read that? You need to understand that there's a point of clarity. There's a whole thing that everything's aiming towards. And the track is designed to help you find that clarity. How? The track itself tells a story of clarity, But in the sense that, it's got two functions. It's like you can enjoy clarity from the musical point of view because it's, it's relaxing. It's melodic, it's subtle, you can put it on in the background, and we've done it, haven't we? We've sat and written with it on, and it doesn't get in the way. It just sits there. It fills that, again, you know more about it than me from the neurological point of view, but it engages areas of the brain, that aren't necessarily linguistic. It gets it, once the part of the brain is pumping, we've seen it in fMRI, blood go to that area, stimulates it. It's like a muscle, you know what I mean? It gets that activity, off you go. So, it's engaging the creative parts of our brain, the parts of our brain that, want to produce, but by not having lyrics, we're leaving Broca's area up here, the language center, we're leaving that all alone. So that can, Veronica's area for language production. No, it's not. It's language comprehension. Oh my God. Language production's Broca's area, because if you have Broca's aphasia, you can't write, can you?
It's brilliant. But I mean, we're going to wrap in a minute. But just, I mean, Matt studied it. My psych degree, my end thesis was, how sound affected performance. And, there's very clear data that, you bring in stimulus and whether it warms up the brain, but you've got more neurons firing. And the more neurons firing, you're more inclined or more able to take on certain tasks. So, once we take that and then we build some decent music on top of it that doesn't bugger up your language centers, whatever they are, then that's exactly what clarity is designed to do, to give you clarity when you're writing.
Yes.
So that was brilliant. And for all the people who are looking for the writing stuff, I hope you enjoyed the insight into the music industry and creativity and why a song.
Writing about the music business industry, this is your thesis done. So you can thank us later when you sat on your MBA, mate. But I think, it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard thing to discuss because we've not sat and done proper research on this particular. I'd love to get 10 people in a room and stick them in a brain scanner and listen to clarity and find out what they actually think of it. But let's do it. But right. It's difficult to assess because, it's like these kind of things, they are subjective. They are, they're a bit amorphous. They're a bit nebulous. It's like how, music itself is one of those universal fundamental things that is hard to pin down.
Right, but I think here's, and we'll finish on this. Back in the day, the radio programmers reckoned they needed 7 to 9 spins to get that song, into your head. And it could be one of 100 songs, and it was just the relationship they had with a label rep, or maybe, Hookers and Blow, whatever. But this was the track that was going to be promoted, 7 or 9 spins, and so long as it was good enough, then it would get in your head. And I think for us, it's the suggestion, isn't it? We're saying, look, if you're looking to write shit, if you're looking to, get some clarity, try this track out. Try clarity out for a spin, and listen to it with that intent and see if it works for you. And if it works for you, do it again and do it again. And then you get to that point where that becomes one of your go-to writing tracks. And that's what we're looking to get. And if that happens, you, the listener, win because you have a piece of music that helps you get shit done. You, the artist, win because now you're generating streams and generating income, and you can afford to go and make more tracks and whatever. And I get to retire and live on a Greek island. But
yeah, that's what we all want in the end, innit? You know what I mean? But this could help you do the same thing, writing fans, because if you smash your exams and your essays and you get that massive salary that you're after, I don't know what you're after, you can live on the Greek island soon. We can all have big parties on the Greek island. Big parties on the Greek islands.
Matt, as ever, it's a pleasure chatting with you. We'll probably come back and we'll do another essay chat, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, because next week we're going to actually be on the Musicto label page, and we'll probably delve deeper into the label stuff. So everybody take care. Love to see you, George. Thanks for the comments. And Erin, and all of you guys.
And make sure you listen to Clarity. Have a listen to it. Enjoy it.
Link below.
Is it below? It's over there.
It will be.